Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this.
Becomes much more important for us, right? So now let me just run us to, my, not so beautiful, right? But my little slide, right? So because that gives us, so by the time we will now transcend from here to, the software itself. Now, our accounts, right? The account module, just like I showed us, allows us, this is where we set our chart of account. And, a basic introduction into what is so a chart of account, right? Chart of account, general ledger account, it can be used, interchangeably. For some of us that are not accountants, please let's just pay close attention as it might be useful too. So now, what is a general ledger account, right? Now, the general ledger basically is referred as to the art of the accounting system, right? And this is because its configuration would always determine how an entity reports, both statutorily and management-wise, right? Now, as a good accountant, you should be able to see when you see a chart of account of a company, you should be able to say, oh, this company is a construction firm. This company is a manufacturing company. This company they are into consulting services, and that is one of those things that separates, these industries and how these, companies are being set up on a typical accounting system, right? And for some of us, what is a chart of account in its name? A chart of account is a listing of, the names of ledger accounts that a company has identified and made available, right, for recording their transactions in its general ledger. So, right? So general ledger is also being shortened as GL. So in case I'm using it interchangeably, you get to see where you get to understand that it works the same way, right? Now, a company has the flexibility, right, to tailor its chart of account to best suit its needs, just like what I said, right? So now, as a company, right, a ledger account for some of us that are not, accountants. Now, you see, for every activities that a company deal with or that they do, be it expenses they paid for something, even for those ones that has nothing to do with payments like depreciation or say revaluation and impairment and all, right? They translate to, accounting entries. They translate into the company's financials, right? And by the time you want to record this activity, right, there should be, a ledger account that will be traceable to, or that will be recorded against using a system, right? So let's say, for instance, Aziz, is being given a fund to, let's say, to buy fuel, or let's say for meal, for feeding, right? So in that instance, Aziz, right? Once the money is being spent, on transportation, for instance, so you need to be able to record that you gave Aziz 5,000 naira on transportation. So now, you can now have a ledger account called transportation expense, right? It simply means anything that has to do with transportation, be it you are giving Aziz any money, you are giving other staffs any money, right? It goes, it's being recorded against that transportation expense, right? So let me be sure we all can still hear me properly, as a sense of feedback. One moment, just to be sure we are together. Okay, cool. Thank you. So now let me just go back there. So now that transportation expense and that, it's a ledger account. So let's say you are making a sale. So that sale, that item or that service you've rendered that is coming to you as a sales or as a revenue should sit into a ledger account too. So because at the end of the day, the system deals with ledger accounts. And as accountants and as business students, you should be able to say that even though for some of us that are not accountants, even though we might not be able to say that, okay, this activity should be reporting into transportation because it's not really our field, but it's just for you to know that anything you do. That's why when those in our account department are asking us for one or two questions, they just want to get an insight so that they can keep proper records. So that's just what a ledger account is, by the way. So when we now talk about a chart of account just consists of several ledgers, your revenue ledgers, transportation expense, meal allowance, all of those things, your liability, those are line by line ledgers. But the chart of accounts comprises of all these ledger accounts. It's a chart, and a chart that is listing out those accounts. So the general ledger account is very, very important. And there are so many things you need to know, to create in order to be able to create a general ledger account, right? Which we'll be going into, shortly too. So now, the ledger account is very, very important, and that is where before, as an accountant, you need to understand this part, because if you have a ledger account that is supposed to be your revenue ledger and you mapped it to be an expense ledger, then there is problem with your report, right? That's when you get to see that even when the company is making profits, you will be reporting losses, right? So now we have different types of general ledger accounts, right? It can be segmented in so many ways, but the basic ones you need to know that all accounting softwares, I repeat again, all accounting softwares, right, has a ledger account for income statement accounts and balance sheet accounts, right? Now, there's a typical difference, right, between the two, and that will lead you. Knowing this will lead you to you knowing how best you can, chart an account, right? So, type of general ledger, we have income statements, right? The simple thing about income statement account is it would only appear on your income statement report, right? And it's and also the balances in that ledger account does not roll over, right, into a new financial year. So, my reporting period is from January to December, right? Let's say 2022. It simply means when I'm starting January 2023 within the system, all my income statement, my sales, my expenses, right? So they are not expected to have balances when you are done your year end, right? When you have rolled over into another year, right? But however, balance sheet accounts, are those accounts that the accumulations rolls over, right? Now, typical example is your asset account. Let's say your bank account. If you have a bank account, you can't say because you are in December 2022, when you now get to January, let's say GT Bank, as the case may be, would write off your balance. It doesn't work like that. It's a continuous stuff, right? That is what makes it a balance sheet account. So your assets, liability, your equity, and all of those other stuffs, right, are your balance sheet account. And it is very, very good you know this difference. So when you are creating a ledger account, you need to be able to ascertain to say, is this ledger account an income statement ledger or a balance sheet ledger, right? Now, in creating a ledger account, there are so many things that you need to note. Most software works with general ledger code. You need to input the description, and most importantly too, we have what we call account categories. So account category, you'll be able to say this ledger account, just like I said earlier, you want to create transportation expense. You need to be sure that that account is mapped as an expense. Imagine you creating that account as an asset, then it simply means your reporting within the system, will be so wrong, right? So now, how do we chart an account? What are the typical examples of chart of account that we have? Because as an accounting graduate, as an accountant and a business person, to an extent, you need to note this, right? Because this is one of the key features that separates who has used an accounting system, before, and who has not, right? So now, this is a typical example of a chart of account. We have here the GL code, general ledger in that case. Then we have the account description. You can see ledger description. Then we have the account category or ledger category, right? And you can see from my segment here, I've been able to differentiate those ones that are balance sheet and those ones that are income statement. Why? Now, most softwares deals with code, account codes. Some does not, right? Like Tally softwares and all that, those ones don't necessarily deal with code, right? Primarily. But the way it works is this. In charting an account or in creating a chart of account, right? You need to like divide your account to balance sheet and income statement. That's the very first thing, right? And once you do that, right, you need to be able to say, okay, based on the codes, in some companies they have their ledger codes length